dang, hold on. There we go. What's up, YouTube? This is your boy P Kid filling in for my man Pat. We got to keep it going, man. Giving my man a rest today. So hey, I appreciate all you all for rocking. I absolutely did mess it up. Don't worry about it though. We're gonna keep it busting. Today we are still going back into the fantasy whispers. My man Johnny. No, my man Big Travie came through today. My fault, my fault. No disrespect.
All good, all good. We are the Fantasy Whisperers, so we're a team. But yeah, Johnny and Pat are away, so the boys P Kid and Travie will play today.
Hey man, that's what's up. That's what's up. I appreciate it. You know what? You've been doing this with Pat for a couple weeks, and obviously I've been on a couple shows, but I never really got to really go in depth with what you do and like how you all got together, the backstory there. So I love to get into that a little bit. At the same time, would love to even talk about um, some of the mistakes you made early on, some of your worst seasons. Just get a little bit more about you as the creator, as you and why you all built the Fantasy Whispers and stuff like that. But before all of that, of course, we got to go through the last week, some do's and don'ts for week 8, all of that stuff. So let's talk about it. So we got week 8 coming up. First off, what's your record? What's your record in the leagues you're in?
So my league of record, I'm 4-3. I have another big money league that I'm 5-2 in as well. So I'm feeling good, above 500 through a couple leagues. I also have the couples league that I'm in. We made a league with all the couples combining for teams that are in our friend group. So there's about 10 couples in there, and we are in first place in that league as well. Me and my girl Cassie. Shout out to Cassie. She, behind every good fantasy GM is the girl that makes it work for him. No, but yeah. So I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. There's other leagues. So I have a couple PPR leagues. I am a losing record 2-5 in those. Not doing so hot, but that's what happens when you play in a bunch of leagues, kid. Like you're going to have some ups and downs. As long as I'm above water in the leagues I really care about the most, then I'm having a good time.
I got you. I got you. So realistically, like, sorry, this is my second season.
Yeah.
I'm still green, right? To me,
Right.
if I take a loss, it's the end of the world. When I win, I'm on cloud 9, right?
Yeah.
so
No,
so like
it's
for me, it's everything, right? But
right.
realistically, there's a lot of variables that you can't control. So like, how do you, as someone who does like makes the picks and stuff like that, how do you manage that? How do you like what's the secret sauce there?
This isn't an emotional game, and it's a made up game, which is kind of funny. It's a made up game about another game. So that in itself makes it
Okay.
kind of tricky, but it is very emotional. There's a meme that goes around the internet where the guy says, man, I'm working through my demons. And it's like, chill, bro, your fantasy team just sucks. Like that's really what we're at
Right.
with right now, is that it is an emotional game. What I've tend to do is I try to focus on the player. So even if I'm bad, but I have a player that's exciting or a couple
Mhm.
players that I like, I try to lean into that. So if I'm 2-5, I'm not trying to panic. First of all, there's two things for this year you should know. One, what are your league settings? Like, is
Mhm.
your league is it 12 teams and 8 people make the playoffs, or is it 12 teams and 6 people make the playoffs? Because that's a different
Mhm.
story. In our league of record, there's 12 teams and 8
Mhm.
teams make the playoffs. That means that no matter what you feel like in week 6, 7, 8, 9, there's a lot more football to be played, and there's still an outside
Right.
chance for you to make the playoffs. If
Yeah.
you're in a 6-team league or a 6-team playoff situation or a 4-team playoff situation, okay, then I can understand panicking a bit, making
Mhm.
changes, letting some of these losses get to you. But to answer your question again, kid, it's really about perspective. Having played it this long and seen different seasons I've had where I hit on players and I coast to the playoffs, or I've had to grind it out each and every week and realize that you can still make the playoffs that way.
Mhm.
Perspective comes into play here. And just remember, this is a weekly game, but it's also still a yearly game. And we've got an extra game this year. That means one more game to try and
Facts.
make the playoffs and push into that playoff push.
Facts. 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 You know what? With that being said, that's some tidbits for me because I bucked the system, so to speak. So like I've always been big on there's only a handful of dynamic QBs. You got to
Right.
get them first because yeah, you go through your running backs, but I mean I take the same approach as fat running backs a dime a dozen. I mean look at Herbert right now. He's like our fourth string. Like
Right.
at the beginning of the season, you wouldn't have thought that he'd be doing what he's doing now, but you knew his potential there. So like for me, it was like you got Lamar Jackson, you got Patrick Mahomes. You like it's only like 7 or 8 QBs where I feel like will absolutely get you that 30, maybe 35 points on a
Right.
fairly consistent basis. You got to get them first. And since I've always picked like ninth, like I've never had a good position. Yeah, I've always picked like ninth. I don't know why. Well, I'm new, so duh, and it goes in order from who won last year. Um, And so because of that, I always like, yo, if I don't pick my QB first, if I go after my RB first, by the time it gets back to me, even though it kind of snakes, by the time it gets back to me, the good guys are gone.
Right.
Right? The guys I
Right.
really want are gone. So I was like, hey, I'm picking my QBs first. But now it's like, yo, I did that. I got Patrick Mahomes, and he might not play, and he don't look. I mean, he still put up numbers and stuff like that. So what do you tell someone like that who is like, it's not a lot of good QBs out there? Like, what? How do you manage this game if your QB just sucks?
Yeah, so it's tough, but what we can lean on is trying to learn from that, not a mistake so much, kid, because obviously I'm not Murray, Mahomes is still in the top 5. Like he's
Yeah.
still okay, even though he had a very down week. And I think with that defense being so bad, they're going to continue to throw every single week. Like he is going to be a great start for the rest of the season. But
Mm-hmm.
some of these other guys we drafted, a little bit higher up, Josh Allen isn't exactly hitting. He's good. He had a bye week. He's been fine. Lamar Jackson, yeah, he's been okay too. But then look at who else we have in this top 6, top 5. Jalen Hurts, Matt
Yeah.
Stafford, Tom Brady's the number 1 QB overall. These are guys we drafted well outside of the 7th, 8th rounds. So that's something we need to remember, is that there is a possibility for other guys to creep into the top 5, and we can go and get our running backs. Because as you mentioned, yes, you could get a Khalil Herbert off waivers, but is that a rental? What happens when Montgomery gets back? Darrell
Right.
Williams, another guy. Like there are going to be running backs you cycle through at the RB2 range, right, that are going to be able to give you points week to week, but you can't replace guys like CMC, Derrick Henry, and obviously CMC's hurt, but like, Nick Chubb, some of these guys that like when they're in, they roll out of bed with 25 points in PPR
Yes.
formats.
But
Like,
I've always drafted in a position where those guys were gone. Like before, by the time you get
right.
down to me, it was done.
Right. But
Like,
at that spot, sometimes like in the 9th spot, you may have gotten an Austin Eckler this year, who is really like the number 3, number 5 running back in PPR. So there are ways to capitalize on and getting those guys a little bit later. You just you're right. But sometimes you can pivot in that position and get a Travis Kelce or a Devontae Adams or guys that are going to be the top of their position, and they continue to kill it. So there are ways to pivot there, but you're right. I mean, you could definitely be like, well, I would rather take the safety in Mahomes towards the late here than try to go gamble on a guy like Aaron Jones, who hasn't exactly hit top 5, or Antonio Gibson, who's been banged up. Some of these running backs in that late position. But I think it's just all
Aaron Jones. I messed that up.
So but I mean, still fringe RB1, still a guy that's going to, like, especially this week, I think with the injuries or the COVID list with the wide receivers, Aaron Jones is in a really good spot against Arizona this week. So there's a lot that goes into play. And again, it's just about like, continuing to hit the grindstone each and every week. And back to your main question about how do you deal with it? You just have to keep going. It's kind of, not to make it too meta or foo-foo with life, but that's kind of how we do with life. Even if you take those L's, you keep going, you keep grinding, you keep coming back to it, because eventually, day 5, day 6, they suck, but day 7 could be the one that turns you around. Just like this week, week 8 could be the one that starts to catapult you the other direction.
Gotcha. We got the super chat busting right now. Tanner, appreciate you. Hop into this question real quick before it pops off. I'm thinking about dropping. I guess he's saying dropping the Bill Singletary for Dolphins Gaskin. Is that a good move? Thanks in advance.
I do think it is a decent move here. Singletary's been in a timeshare with Zach Moss. We've also seen that this Bills offense just wants to throw. They have no intent of running in most games. Now, the weather could turn, and you could get into a situation where that changes. But I like Zach Moss more than Singletary rest of season. And Gaskin, who's had a couple games back-to-back, doing some good things here, kid. He's also now got Malcolm Brown, who was kind of a thorn in his side, stealing touches. Malcolm Brown's got a hamstring, so he might not be playing for the next couple of weeks. Could boost Gaskin's value here, even though they do play the Bills this week. That's a tough matchup.
Got you. You know what? What's your sleeper for? Sleeper. I hate that question a little bit. We've asked it a ton, but it's week 8, and so some of your picks that you've had from week 1 may have changed over time, right? The people you thought wouldn't be great end up being great. Some of the people you thought were bust could have shown out. You know what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah.
So like, all right, what was the surprise so far? Now we're basically like halfway through the season at this point. So what surprised you so far, and what should we be looking out for if that person may still be available on the waiver and stuff like that?
Well, none of the guys I'm going to say probably are going to be available on the waivers, but I will say that I am genuinely absolutely shocked right now about Jamar Chase, who has just been
Mm.
out of this world. I mean, through 7 games, he has the most receiving yards of any rookie wide receiver ever. He's the only one since 2014 to have a 200-yard game with a touchdown since Mike Evans did it in 2014. He is
Mm.
joining some elite categories, and it's all because he has a chemistry with a guy in Joe Burrow that he played with in college. The other
Okay.
one I'm genuinely surprised by, not so much that, he's doing well. I thought Cooper Kupp could do well, but Cooper Kupp is basically the overall one player in fantasy period over quarterbacks and running backs. Like, he is dominating, especially in PPR formats. So that's
Mhm.
something that's shocked me a little bit. As far as guys on the waiver that I think could kind of turn it around and be end of season like league winners, let's call them, or guys that could actually dominate down the stretch for you, I think
Mhm.
the biggest one this week is Kenneth Gainwell. And I think when you look at Miles Sanders, he has a similar injury to Saquon Barkley, although we saw photos of Saquon Barkley's ankle that was really, really sketch. We haven't
Yeah, I
seen
don't
those
I don't
photos
yeah, I don't know about that
of
one.
Miles Sanders. We haven't seen Miles Sanders' ankle, but they're saying, a lot of doctors I trust on Twitter are saying it's a similar injury, which means 2
Mm.
to 3 weeks maybe. They haven't put him on IR. But Gainwell is a guy who's gotten 8 targets a couple times this year. They're going to use him in the passing game. This team is a pass-heavy team, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know that Boston Scott got a lot of carries in this last game in the goal line, but Gainwell is the better back all around. And I think if we're talking about rest of season long term, Kenneth Gainwell could be a guy that actually, if he starts popping off, kid, would we be surprised if they gave him the running back field ahead of Miles Sanders? I don't think so. They don't really have an allegiance to Miles Sanders. I know that this wasn't the regime that drafted him. So if Gainwell comes in, this is a guy they did draft this year, that he could easily take that over.
The fact that Pat is like texting me now saying I got my waiver in already, he's definitely cheating right now.
That's why
I tried to beat him.
he wanted to show off.
Oh
He wanted to get
God.
his waivers in, man. It's a setup.
Oh man. Hey, I'm gonna try to get him in my other league though, because you are absolutely right about that. But yeah, all right, Pat. Hats off to you. In fact, Pat has an interesting question. Well, get to Baki first. Chase Edmonds or Khalil Herbert in his flex position. I give you. I know that this is what you do. Personally, I am big on Edmonds just because I don't trust Khalil. Like how the Bears are kind of utilizing. I don't like how the Bears are utilizing any of their players. Like I picked
Yeah.
up Mooney, who is absolutely a better talent than what he's put up. Allen Robinson is a better talent. Heck, Justin Fields is a better talent, but it's the way the game is being managed and stuff like that. I just have no
Yeah.
faith in it. What are your takes? What's your take on
Well,
that?
and that's exactly what we like to talk about. So a lot of the times what we do in fantasy, kid, is we assume rational coaching, meaning like you and I can see that a player is good. So we
Mhm.
assume that coach is going to see that and play them. Well, then we get coaches like Adam Gase and Matt Nagy and Urban Meyer, and we're not able to assume rational coaching, right? That's what happened with Justin Fields. You and I talked off air about how hurt I am
Right.
about Justin Fields. Like, I'm hurt on one level because I as a fantasy analyst, I suggested Fields as a potential league winner. And then on
Mhm.
another level, I'm a Packers fan. So actually, screw the Bears. I'm glad that they suck, but not to take shots here. I know I'm not gonna win over these fans in this chat. No, I love the city of Chicago.
I would just say
No
this:
hard
Aaron
feelings.
Rodgers is probably on the board of directors for the Bears
Oh
over at
yeah,
Lakeview
yeah.
somewhere.
I love Brady saying. I guess he owns stock in the Bears now or in
I
Soldier
think he
Field. But
does.
either way, that's it for a different show. What I want to do
Right.
talk about here is Herbert. Okay, so Herbert, regardless of what we think about rational coaching, they've basically let him out of the bottle. They let the genie out of the bottle, so to speak, and we
Right.
can't put that back in. We just realize right now that Herbert is the better play than Damian Williams, even him coming back from COVID. They
Mhm.
realize that. And the big thing for me, the big test, kid, was can he catch passes? He caught all 5 of his targets last week, and
Mhm.
he got over 100 yards, kid, against the best run defense in the league, Tampa
Yeah.
Bay, in a losing
Absolutely.
game script. So for me, I think Herbert is the answer over Chase Edmonds this week, only because I believe that when games get into games that Arizona can handle, which they're 6-point favorites now with all the COVID list injuries
Mhm.
or COVID list things with Green Bay, we see James Conner as the back they use because they control the game, they grind it out, that he gets the touchdowns. I do like Edmonds. I think he's a great start in PPR leagues because of the pass catching. But
Yeah.
again, I think this is a game that Arizona could easily kind of, I hate to say it against my Packers, but could handle them pretty easily. And I think
Mm.
that could game script chase out of this, where Herbert is a guy that continues to show really good in whatever game script because of the volume. They continue to just pound the
Yeah.
rock with him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Kyle Pitts fan at this point. I drafted him pretty high because I thought he was going to be absolute stud.
Yeah.
Kind of disappointed at first, but it's kind of evolved as of late. Pat's on the same thing. I got him in one league, didn't get him in Pat's league. What do you think about Kyle Pitts? Is he a much start? Now, here's my caveat to this. I have Kyle Pitts, and I got Kyle Pitts, and I got Higbee, and I think I got Gronk in this league where I got Kyle Pitts too. It's like I'm pretty tight at that position. But
Right.
like, is Kyle Pitts the must start at this point, just because of what Atlanta has going on?
Yeah, absolutely. What we were, 3 weeks in, kid, we were wondering, is Atlanta good? Like, is their offense
Mhm.
even good? And I'm not saying they're good, but I would say that this offense now has turned the corner. It's a lot
Yeah.
better. They've found weapons in Cordarrelle Patterson, in Kyle Pitts, and Ridley is back now. And Matt Ryan's been consistent. He hasn't been great, but he's been consistent, hasn't turned the ball over a ton. And so
Mhm.
I think this offense does run a decent amount of plays. It's an offense I want to invest in. And let's be honest, like what I saw, we finally saw Pitts turn the corner over the last 2 weeks. Before the bye in London, he had a great game with Ridley out. And then after, with Ridley back against Miami, did you see that one-handed catch down the sidelines by
Yeah.
Pitts? That may have been the highlight of the year for Pitts. It wasn't even a touchdown play, but this is a generational talent that is demanding the second most targets on the team, and in some cases, the most targets on the team, depending on how Ridley does.
Hmm.
And he's a mismatch for the Falcons across the board. Whether it's nickel cornerbacks or linebackers, you do not want them matched up against Kyle Pitts. So for me, yes, he is in the must-start category. He's going to end up probably top 5 at the position, and that's more of a testament to the rest of the position kind of being crappy in fantasy. But he is
Mm.
also really, really good.
Got you. You know what? Another pick that speaking of Atlanta, since we're talking Atlanta, Patterson really
Yeah,
surprised me when I got him. I really just picked him up because I needed a running back. I can kind of flex him. In our league, he doubles as a receiver, and
right.
so like I had no running backs because I chose to get my QBs first. But I had no good running backs, and then he just like blew up, and I was like, man, what the heck is going on? So like, if you I don't know what his points are in other leagues, but in our league, I mean, he's giving me a good 18 points a game. Like,
Yeah.
so like that's Atlanta may not be good, but at least from a fantasy perspective, it looks like they got some good talent over there, right? Like,
Yeah, and the big thing is now with Ridley back and, of course, Russell Gage as well, who came back last week, it seems as Patterson's being used less as the gadget wide receiver and more as
mm,
now the running back, which is excellent for us because we want more touches. The problem is 2 weeks ago we were saying, okay, Cordarrelle Patterson's probably a sell high because he was getting in on only, I think it was like 50% of the snaps, 40% of the snaps, but he was targeted or used. His usage was 25% of those snaps that he got in on, meaning when he got in the game, they used him. Now
yeah,
what we're seeing is he gets in the game a lot more. His usage goes down, but if he's in there a lot more, that means we've got more opportunity. That's more sustainable as the year goes on. And he's basically taken over after the bye. It's interesting to look at teams after the bye, P-Kid, and this is just in general. But when we look at fantasy, we want to see guys like, I was interested to see after Atlanta's bye how they were going to use the backfield. I was interested to see in San Francisco after their bye if
mhm,
Ayuk was going to spike and get more usage. He did not. So I know I have my answer. Ayuk's probably not going to happen this year. And then on on the note with Patterson, we know that Patterson is now the running back 1 for this team. Mike Davis is
mm,
basically taking the back seat. And so
yeah,
Patterson is their RB1, which means he'll come down in the giant splash plays probably because they won't use him as a mismatch as much, but he's going
mhm.
to level out and be a guy you can continue to rock as a running back because he's going to get the touches in this offense, especially the red zone.
Got you. I want to hit this question real quick. So I
Yeah.
gave up JT and Hines and Joe Mixon and DJ Moore and Kirk, but I received Fournette, James Robinson, Debo Samuels, and T. Higgins. Win or L?
I think unfortunately this is an L.
Mm.
And the reason being is because, well, here's the thing. I'm a little concerned with DJ Moore because of Sam Darnold's like backslide right now.
Hey,
But
quick
Joe
question
Mixon,
before you explain: is
yeah,
it
yeah.
normal to just move so many people at the same time?
This is a big trade. No, this is a blockbuster thing.
Okay.
I would be, but I like what he's trying to do here. I think he's basically saying, I want to get out of Joe Mixon, who the
Mm,
Bengals have now gotten a little more pass heavy, and
yeah.
DJ Moore, who's backsliding, in return for Debo, who's been consistent, and then maybe T Higgins. So he's buying that dip essentially and saying T Higgins and the passing offense for Cincinnati is going to go up. The reason I don't like this is Jonathan Taylor, man. Jonathan Taylor is the best player in this deal. and I would not be
Mm.
wanting to give up Jonathan Taylor at all. And then Joe Mixon is getting volume similar to Jonathan Taylor, but not producing as well. And so for me, like Fournette's fine, but there are going to be games like last week where he just gets the one touchdown and then they pass a ton because that's what Tampa Bay does. James
Mhm.
Robinson still attached to a very bad Jacksonville team, even though he's producing. You wonder if that's going to happen each and every week. Whereas Hines and or JT and Joe Mixon and DJ Moore are all main veins of their offenses, and I just want to be invested in that. And then Kirk here is the kind of up and down roller coaster piece. So I do think I think it's a little bit more even than initially I thought, but it's definitely, I think you're losing out on this because of JT and Joe Mixon leaving your
Yeah,
squad.
man, big stuff right there. You know, I actually moving to a different team. I'm selfishly now I'm cheating, right? So I'm cheating. And one of my leagues, I'm like I said, I'm curb stopping my comp. I'm curb stopping Pat. I always gotta say that. Like Thanos in this league. Anyway, right? But another league I suck, right? And
Yeah.
I have to make a decision because I had Russ as my QB. He's down. And I picked up Zach Wilson. He's down. So now I'm relying on Joe Flacco.
Ooh.
So now I have to deal with Joe Flacco and potentially, and it's the same question. It ties into what Pat is asking on Jameson Crowder's value. So now I'm trying to take the double dip on that. What do you think Flacco is going to do, and how do you think that's going to work out for him? Like, do you think he still has it, or is it one of those things where it's like, he's past his prime? Don't expect to see old Flacco by any means.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned here with Flacco. The good news for Flacco is that we know that he
You're supposed
can,
to
or the
lie to
good
me,
news.
Travis. You're supposed to
I
lie to
know,
me.
I know, I know. But this is a bad matchup, man. Cincinnati, what people don't realize is, yeah, Cincinnati's passing offense is great. Burrow looks good. Their defense is vastly underrated right now. It's a top 10 defense across the board against the run and the pass per Pro Football Focus. So we actually like the defense. They're going to get boat raced in this game, no matter who's at quarterback for the Jets. It's not going to be good. And the reason is the offensive line is really bad. The quarterback play is really bad. And I'm just like, you can't be excited about Flacco here. What you can be excited about maybe is Corey Davis. I actually think Corey Davis is the one I'd be more
Yes.
excited about because I think that we've seen Flacco pepper a certain target if he fits the mold, and Davis is the one guy on that team that kind of fits the mold above Crowder. Now, Pat's question was Crowder's value with Zach Wilson gone. I don't know if it's really there. He's a guy that has demanded targets from the slot at a high clip, no matter who the quarterback. But Flacco isn't a guy who's loved the slot either. So it's not really that I'm that excited about it. We tend to want to see him get with guys. Flacco being bad is true, but he's still a guy that has kind of like,
He won a ring.
he's arrogant though when he throws. Like he still thinks he's the man, Whereas Darnold and Zach Wilson, they're still very timid when they throw. They're going to throw to their slot guy a lot more. So I think that's where I'm at with kind of Crowder. I'd be more excited for a Corey Davis, much more than a.
I mean, to be fair, Joe Flacco absolutely had one of the best playoff runs we've seen.
Absolutely, yeah. But that
I'm trying to
one
make
playoff,
myself feel better about
yeah, no, I
this because
feel
I'm
you.
kind of
That
stuck.
one playoff run, I don't know, back when I was in high school is not going to work. Like that's not going to score me points right now, kid,
Okay, yeah. So just expect me to just bomb that league. Just go ahead and just say, hey,
Well,
listen.
so it's a 2 QB league, right? I'm assuming.
No, that league is
16
that
team,
league is
maybe?
2 QB league,
Okay.
and I got Mahomes in that league as well, who was questionable, and I had to drop and get Joe Flacco.
I think Mahomes is going to be fine. And is there anybody else is Ryan Fitzpatrick chilling there on waivers? If
No,
Ryan,
nobody's
no,
on
he's
the
not
waivers.
there.
No.
Dang. Okay.
Listen, I tried to go get Mills. He's not there.
Yeah.
I tried to go.
Oh, dude, I'm with you. I'm in Scott Fishbowl, which is like a huge analyst league every year, and I drafted Justin Fields and Baker Mayfield, and I had Fitzpatrick, and he got hurt, and so now I have Davis Mills, and it's terrible. I have no shot every week because Davis Mills is just absolutely garbage.
Oh man, at least hey, listen, that makes me feel a little bit better. At least I
Yeah,
know I'm not the only one having some trouble here. Like,
in these
oh
2
god,
QB
I feel like
leagues,
I was on
that's
an
what
island.
happens, man. It's not good.
This question from Steph, who, by the way, when we talk about rivalries and friendly competition, I'm playing Ringo this week.
Oh,
Steph,
okay.
my fault, Steph. So I'm playing Steph this week, and oh yeah, I can't wait to beat him. But anyway, do you think Cole Beasley targets will spike? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, so we have obviously our guy Dawson Knox out of this game. He's going to be about 3 weeks with that broken bone in his hand, and I
Mhm.
think this could mean some really good stuff for Cole Beasley. If you look at who he's matched up against this week, I believe it's Nick Needham, which is the slot cornerback for the Dolphins. And right
Mhm.
now, let me look this up for per Pro Football Focus, he's allowing 1.2 yards per route covered. That's the most on his team right now. So we
Mhm.
actually really like Beasley for targets this week. And I do think the spike plus the good matchup could mean really good things against Miami this week. Remember, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones were able to return. And that's the strength of the Miami Dolphins secondary and their defense, to be honest, is those two
Yeah.
cornerbacks. But it's not the slot corner who Beasley will go after this week. So I think actually he's in a good spot.
Interesting question I have. Miami has a couple of things going for him right now, going against
Right.
them as well. Like Tua kind of stepped his game up a little bit and all this stuff, right? He had a great week last week, I believe, right?
Yeah, 4 touchdowns. QB1 overall in fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. But he's also involved in a lot of trade talks right now. I know
Yeah.
it's a lot of rumors and stuff like that, but we know that the trade is not even by any means. If
Right.
Deshaun Watson can sniff the field right now, he's the best QB in my opinion in football right now. What do you think happens to that team? Like, who else do you think they give up? And does that have I mean, obviously, it has a huge impact on the players that get moved. But
Yeah.
if you're sitting on two, or if you're sitting on those players right now, what are you looking? What are you thinking?
I don't know what it is about Tua that people don't like. To me, the guy's played, I think, in like 13 games total so far, and we're trying to judge
Mhm.
his whole career based on that. He had his best game of his career last week. And
That's true.
so, and he said something in the press conference that really got me. It was just like, look, I hear it all, but what am I supposed to do? Not go out here and play? Of course, I'm going to go out here and play. Like, I'm not trying to prove
Right.
anybody wrong. I'm just trying to learn this offense and continue to play and grow. And that's what it's just admirable that this guy, in the face of all this, like, he's got his owner cheering for him to win this game against Atlanta. And in the same breath, everybody knows that the owner wants Deshaun Watson right now. Like, he really wants Deshaun Watson. So
Yeah.
I think it's a tough spot for Tua to be in. I think that if I'm Miami, I definitely want to go get Watson if I'm the only one at the
Yeah.
table. Like, okay, so he's suspended as soon as he gets back, or maybe next year, 6 to 8 games. Whatever. Go do it.
Whatever.
Like, you got to
Yeah.
go do it. You got to get the chance. And it's a shame that it comes at Tua's expense, but like, this is what you have to do in the NFL because you don't get a chance to get a field tilting quarterback. Maybe there's 5
Absolutely.
of them in the NFL, and Watson's one of them. And so
Yeah.
you got to try and do it. As far as what they're going to give back, I've heard a lot of the trade talk is actually a 3-team deal because Houston, which unbeknownst to me, doesn't want Tua. So they're talking about moving Washington in this deal and then Washington getting Tua because they actually really did want Tua in that draft. So that's what we're talking about now is maybe a 3-team deal where Watson goes to Miami, Washington gives something to Houston, and then Tua goes to Washington. So that's what we're looking at
What
now.
does
But
Houston think they're gonna get? Like,
I
like
I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't take firsts and Tua and just kind of ride that out and see what happens. Like, don't be stupid here. Like, take their young quarterback. It's an asset.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's one of those things that it's like yeah.
But it's
I'm one of
Houston, right? Like,
Yeah. It's
like
like
who
what the
knows?
heck is going on? Interesting questions here with bye weeks and play now. Would you keep two defenses? You know what? I've seen a lot of this. I missed the Heineke and Wentz question. I'm gonna say this right now. You keep Wentz because Wentz is absolutely on the uptick. Do
Oh,
you
I'm
agree with me on
I'm
that?
I'm with you on that one, kid. He's put up 20 or more points in like 4 straight weeks, and he
Yeah.
gets Tennessee this week, who's a top 5 matchup against quarterback. I know that Tennessee just kind of dusted Pat Mahomes, but I'm going to chalk that up to a weird ass game, and I'm going to go with
Mhm.
our guy, Wentz here in this matchup. Pittman is really exploding. If we get T.Y. Hilton back as well, that could be really an uptick. And this is a high over under. I think the
Yeah.
Colts implied team total for Vegas is 24 points. So that's a nice implied total. We want that for fantasy purposes.
Nice. Now, what's the two defenses? Now, I see a lot of people in the leagues I'm in do it. I don't. I never. I take the flyer on the defenses. I flip them out every week based
Yeah,
off their matchup. So,
I think
what
there's
what are you thinking?
I think there's a couple ways to do it. There's probably 3 ways to do your defense. You can stream it like Kid does. I do this as well. When I do that, I'm targeting low over unders. I'm targeting the home
Mhm.
team and I want them to be favored. Those are kind of the ways I stream defense. If I am There's another way to do it. You draft defense early, and then that's your defense. You can miss on that sometimes, but you could get yourself, Pittsburgh last year or something like that when you're drafting a little bit early. And then the other one is this 2 defense kind of strategy where you're looking 5-6 weeks ahead and you're trying to match the right combinations of these 2 defenses down the line. I don't think it's terrible unless you get in a position where a Kenneth Gainwell or somebody that can really help your benefit your team at the running back or wide receiver position becomes available. Then you need to drop one of those defenses and go for one of these lottery tickets, because a defense can't win you your league, but a running back who takes over the job and becomes that next best running back can, in fact, win your league, and you need to get that in your lineup. So have some perspective with it, but I don't hate rostering 2 defenses if you've matched up some really good matchups down the stretch. Like if you can hedge yourself to get a Patriots and then a Bills or something where you're going to face the Jets 3 times in the next 4 weeks, like that's a really good situation. You want that. You can end up with 20 points each and every week. So,
hey, listen, I had Tampa when they faced the Bears, and I absolutely needed those 20 points.
Oh,
so,
yeah, exactly.
Loved it. You know what? I going back to the rivalry, because I see you got Steph in the chat, and definitely want to touch on some of the questions, but I wanted to talk about you and Johnny and talk about that rivalry there, right? So,
yeah,
give us a little history about that. Tell us how that's going. Who has the winning record? Like give us the details on it.
Yeah, so I think probably our head-to-head matchup's a little bit more even if we're talking regular season. But in our league of record, because that's the one we play in the most together, I'm not trying to just bag on Johnny because he's not here on the show. That would not be okay. But I have won 3 championships in our league of record. Johnny has not yet won in our league of record. He did get to the championship last year behind a really good, well put together team that fought really hard. But yeah, as far as what we're talking about is like, that's my measuring stick, as far as in our league of record. I want to win it all, and a lot of people will want to put themselves in good position, win the most games, do things like that. I don't really care about regular season. I want to make the playoffs and I want to win it all. And I've been able to do that 3 times. I'm fortunate, had some really good squads. As far as me and Johnny's rivalry, it's there. I mean, it's there within the show, within making good takes. I want to be on that show and give Whisper Nation all the advice and come on this show and give you guys all the good advice. And if I have a conflicting take with Johnny, then I'm really heated. I want to make sure that guy gets it, and gets there. So we'll have those moments. And I think that's really, I think it's awesome for the content, because we don't want to be a couple of guys that agree all the time on the same players, because then what perspective do we give Whisper Nation? I'm wrong all the time. In fact, professional gamblers are only right 40% of the time. That's just the math of it. So we want to have these conflicting opinions, because then you're able to kind of have this perspective of who do I start? Why would I start this guy? Oh, I have 2 different opinions on why I would. Now I have a better idea of who I trust and want to go with on this.
Oh man, I appreciate that. In fact, that's actually how me and Pat's relationship kind of blossomed, because we legitimately could agree on a lot, but on very fundamental situations within sports, it was like we saw that completely different, and it makes for good content. It's actually done well for our channel, and so I'm having a ball with it. Having a ball listening to Steph's like wild takes. I don't know if you've seen that, but I mean, for some odd reason, Michael Jordan's not on his list of greatest players of all time. Sure. Wow. I have a ball. Like wild.
Yeah, that
stuff
is
like that, right? Which, by the way, I would love to talk to you about. We can maybe do this next week. NBA fantasy. Do you all cover NBA fantasy leagues?
So we don't cover it. We do play. I just got back into that league with Johnny. We play in a fantasy basketball league together. So we are going to start. The goal was, when we started the Fantasy Whispers, we would kind of open it up to other sports, but football is such a demanding topic. It's even in the off season, it demands so much of us. So until we get the brand exactly where we want it, we're not going to be able to touch in on some of that stuff. But we do have a big love. Like Johnny's a huge Suns fan. I'm a big Lakers fan. We have huge love for the NBA, and it's my second most exciting sport behind the NFL personally. And so, yeah, there's love there for the NBA.
I got to tell you this. Fantasy NBA is wild. Like it's a lot. Like it's a lot to do every day. Like I found myself interested and disinterested at the same time. Like I am like, I don't.
It's a big load, especially right now in the NFL with the NFL going. It gets hard. But there is that sweet spot, I think, after the NFL kind of wraps up and when it gets a little bit more, it dies down a little bit, that the NBA, and that's when the best basketball is anyway. So you just kind of have to float your team for most of the year, get some good players, and then start really rocking it towards, the spring.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, just because I know this is just me and you rocking today, and so realistically, winding down, I want to get to these last couple of questions before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Should I trade Tony, D Slade, and D Johnson for D Swift? I got Cup, Jefferson, and Debo. I'm hurting for another RB. Sounds like a lot of people for one player, though.
So Tony, Slayton, Andy Ernest for DeAndre Swift. I mean, if that person will do that trade, absolutely do that deal. Here's the deal. Dearness Johnson's a rental. Chubb is probably back this week. Darius Slayton also a rental because Tony and Golladay should get back into this lineup. You're going to trade 2 Giants wide receivers who can't really stay healthy and a backup running back for DeAndre Swift. Absolutely go get this deal done if he will do this.
Hey, if you say it, I agree with you. Then I'm gonna roll with it because it sounds like. Do you really feel that way about the Giants?
I like Tony. Tony is a very exciting player, and I like what he's able to do. But DeAndre Swift is essentially a running back and a wide receiver combined in one. He is leading his team in targets. He continues to be a negative game script where the Lions are just going to pepper him with targets. And did you see his screen pass he took for a touchdown against the Rams on Sunday?
No, I didn't see
Absolutely dime of a play. I mean, that was maybe one of the best plays of the year. He shed a bunch of tackles, burst into the scene. I mean, this is a 5-star recruit who then went to Georgia, running back university, who then was drafted with high pedigree to the Lions, and the Lions, they're basically begging for playmakers on that team, and he is a main vein of his offense. I absolutely would do that deal if you can get it done, Prodigy.
Hey, there you have it. There you have it. Last one, should I drop Gordon or for Boston Scott?
This one is tough. Melvin Gordon is actually doing a lot more here, and I think Gainwell is actually the ad above Scott. So I think hang on to Melvin Gordon here because
should I pick up? I don't know. You see how it's working.
Yeah, it could be Josh Gordon.
That's what I was thinking.
If it's Josh Gordon, absolutely, I would if you need the running back help because the Chiefs are just struggling for that third piece in their offense, and I don't know who it's going to be. So, yeah, Boston Scott is a decent pickup in that case, but if it's Melvin Gordon, you hang on to Melvin Gordon.
Hey, listen, hey, Breeze Nation, you all here first. Big Travis coming through with the hot tips. Hey, listen, I didn't get your picks for week 8. I didn't get any picks for week 8, did I? I'm not doing.
Yeah, we did. We talked a little bit about Gainwell, Kenneth Gainwell. We talked a little bit about him.
Okay. Anything
I also like.
Looking at for week 8?
Yeah,
help me. I need to beat Ringo. Help me cheat. I need.
What do you need the most this week? Do you need wide receiver, tight end, QB? What do you need? We can.
Prayer at this time. I just need prayer for now.
T's and P's, huh? Thoughts and prayers. That's what I need.
I need no one to be injured. I mean, realistically, I'm projected to beat him. I don't know why he thinks he's going to win. But I know that doesn't mean anything.
Is this the 6-1 squad?
I'm 6-1. He's 5-2.
Oh, this is a good matchup.
It is a good matchup. You know what? I'm gonna use this last minute to get my advice, and I know he's listening, but skip him. So I got Mahomes, Godwin, Patterson, Allen, Henderson Jr., Edmonds, Hockenson, Mooney. Oh, I'm gonna move Mooney. Prater in Tampa Bay. I got Rondale Moore on my bench.
Yeah, I think
Deontay Harris is on the bench, and I got Corey Davis on the bench. I think I'm gonna move Corey Davis to the starting lineup.
Over who?
Over Mooney.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. I think that's a decent ad in the lineup there. I think you said you had somebody else, Rondale Moore, on your bench as well.
I do. Rondale does not have the best.
I know he's not playing the most snaps here. Slayton is an interesting ad if he's on waivers. I would consider dropping Mooney for Slayton because all of those injuries at the wide receiver. Slayton led the team in air yard market share last week. And you're good at tight end right now, you said?
Yeah, I'm pretty tight at tight end.
Yeah, then I'd be good. But for those of you on the stream listening, I think at tight end, Evan Ingram sticking with that Giants team with all the injured players, Saquon, Kenny Golladay, Tony, all these guys probably out for Monday. Evan Ingram led this team in targets last year. He's also playing the Chiefs this week. They give up the 3rd most points to the tight end across PPR formats. So we really like Evan Ingram in this matchup. He got 8 targets last week at the tight end position. That's really nice. And I think Ios Dom is asking really quick about the top 5 defense going into week 8. Really love Cincinnati, obviously playing the Jets. So if they're available on waivers, go ahead and pick them up. And again, look for low over-unders that Vegas projects, the
Mhm.
home team, and if they're favored in that game. Those are teams if some of the top streamers are not available anymore.
Hey, Travis, I appreciate you coming through as always, man. Let the
Yes,
people know
sir.
where they can find you at again.
Yeah, so you can follow the channel, search the Fantasy Whispers on YouTube. We are rocking and rolling over there. That's the best place to get all our content. We do daily content there. Like today, we did the waiver stream. It's still up there, so you can get your waiver claims in. Tomorrow, we'll be doing a trade for, trade away episode. Thursday, we do the
Hey,
Thursday
I
night.
like that.
Yeah, Thursday we do the Thursday night matchup show, and we just keep rocking it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've got content coming out. So we really have just been trying to do this thing and get people their W's, get people their hardware each and every year. And because we are crazy about this, this game that's been presented before us, and we think it's a lot of fun, and we just couldn't stop talking about it. So we decided to put that voice on the internet.
Hey man, I love to hear it. I love to hear it. And you've definitely helped me get some W's. We had a couple people in the chat say you helped me get some W's. I got some people that hit me up, say they've gotten some W's based off your advice. So we really do appreciate
Appreciate
it.
that. Yeah.
Breeze Nation, we definitely want y'all to get in tune with Big Travie and the Fantasy Whispers. We always appreciate y'all for coming through and showing us love. Hey man, until next time, peace.
Peace.